Hello friends, today we will discuss about POCSO, that is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, and it was amended in 2019. So let's go into the presentation. I am Dr. Srinivas Rajkumar. I am currently working as a consultant psychiatrist. This presentation was made to headmasters of schools coming under Chengalpattu district, but for the benefit of everybody, I thought it would be a good idea to share this online. So, what does this phrase mean? Ignorantia juris non excusat. Okay. So, in the court of law, you cannot claim ignorance as an excuse for not knowing the law. It is important for every citizen to know the laws of the land and act in accordance with it. More so in a sensitive act like POCSO, which has serious punishment for those who fail to act in accordance to law. So first, the most important aspect is who is a child. So the child is defined as any person who has not completed 18 years of age. So this act, that is POCSO, covers all children under 18 years of age. And again, we all know that why were these laws changed? There was a need for every signatory of UNCRPD to kind of modify their laws in accordance with the United Nations conventions. So there is a migration to a right-based approach. And again, United Nations Conventions on Rights of Children mandates that it is the duty of the state to ensure survival, development, protection, and participation of children. And again, it is also important to know that child abuse is not only just sexual. It can be of multiple forms, that is emotional, sexual, physical, or neglect. All these forms of abuse result in actual or potential harm to child's health, survival, development, or dignity. And again, as we are discussing POCSO today, it's very important to know what is sexual abuse. So any act using a child for sexual gratification of by a more powerful person. And it is also important to know that the amendment also mentions acts of abuse that may or may not include touch are also covered under child sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse takes place in the context of a relationship where responsibility, trust, or power are abused by the perpetrator. So there are a lot of myths surrounding child sexual abuse. Those being happen usually to girls, cannot be stopped, is easily detectable, does not occur in educated families, do not occur with girls wearing, it does occur with girls wearing revealing dresses, always include physical contact, which are all myths. It's not true. So it's important to know the signs and symptoms for the identification of victims of child sexual abuse. So whenever a child encounters abuse, there may or may not be one or many of these signs which can help us make or help us identify child sexual abuse at the earliest. So there may be injuries, especially in the private parts of the child. The child may have difficulty walking or sitting. The child may report fatigue or sleep difficulties. And it is also important to observe other associated factors like poor attendance in class, unexpected behavior changes, then again, regressions such as bedwetting, that is losing already developed milestone. Then the child also may develop sudden dislike towards certain person or places. The child may show sudden accumulation of gifts, which may be provided by the perpetrator as a compensation to hide the act he's doing on the child. The child may be either way. The child may pay too much attention to his or her appearance, or completely ignore taking care of themselves. So we will discuss the salient features. After having identified several features of child sexual abuse, it is important to know the law and certain important clauses of POCSO. So again, the salient features of POCSO is very elaborate. It defines who is a child, the different sexual offenses, and also has mandatory clauses, as I already said, about reporting and recording. It defines the punishment for false reporting. Then it has the provision for emergency medical care. There is provision for care, protection. The overall procedure is expected to be child friendly. Whenever a complaint is made by the kid, it is presumed that the perpetrator has committed the crime. Then there is a special court to take care of POCSO like complaints, and there is provision for compensation either by the perpetrator or by the state to take care of the medical and other needs of the child. So there are several sections which cover different natures of sexual offenses. So the classification based on the nature of the offense, like as already described, it is for both contact and non-contact offenses. So even involving child for pornographic purposes, showing videos. So a lot of aspects are covered under POCSO. So there is a very comprehensive act. So as I said, it separates contact abuse and non-contact abuse very clearly. And so non-contact abuse, as contact abuse is obvious, we'll discuss about non-contact abuse. So exposing child to porn, then making the child watch somebody disturbing or showing private parts, then talking about activities involving sex or of sexual nature. Then again, looking at the child's private parts, then again online abuse, all come under non-contact abuse. The recent amendment has additional provisions for strong punishment up to 20 years to life. Then it also like has additional provisions to punish individuals who are storing porn videos and other materials. So it has like enhanced the scope of punishment and included other clause to be more contemporary. And again, the most important aspect in POCSO is the mandatory reporting. So any adult who comes into the knowledge of case of abuse is in a position to report it to the police as soon as possible. Otherwise, he or she is liable to face imprisonment up to 6 months or fine or both. The failure of the person in charge or company to report the offense allegedly committed by the subordinate is also punishable up to 6 months or fine or both. And reporting false abuse with the intention to humiliate, again, as I described already, false abuse is also punished up to 6 months or fine or both. Then if the child provides a false complaint, there is no punishment. But if a false complaint is provided against a child, it may be liable to punishment up to 1 year. So it is very child friendly, and it focuses on the welfare of the child. And again, as the context of today's presentation is about the role of teachers, teachers are at a very important position, as they are responsible for reporting, and they are the direct caretakers of the students. And again, who to report? Who will you report these instances to? So the first point of contact can be local police, special juvenile police unit if it's available, the child welfare committee, the child helpline 1098, the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, or the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights. You can also directly access any of these portals online or use this link to directly get in touch with child protection services. And in this specific context, as today is about how schools can prevent child sexual abuse, we will be discussing about the role of schools in addressing child sexual abuse. So it is important for schools to create safe places for disclosure. They have to provide awareness to teaching and non-teaching staff and parents. The child protection policy is a must, including safe recruitment policy. They have to provide awareness to children to protect themselves as well as to report in the unfortunate case of such events occurring. And it is also important to do regular safety audits of schools, including staff and the infrastructure. And it is also of importance to intervene immediately in the unfortunate event of such event happening. So as already described, it is important to notice the signs and symptoms to identify victims of child sexual abuse. It is important to extend the support to the child to build their confidence and to disclose or refer to the counselor. It is important to follow the mandatory reporting guidelines. It is important to maintain confidentiality of the victim. They have to extend support to the child and also the family. It is important to ensure that the child is not getting in contact with the abuser so as to prevent further harm. And if there is a language barrier, it is important to arrange an interpreter. And it is also important to support the child during medical examination by making available like a medical professional of the same gender. And what are the supportive behaviors? So how do you support when there is a victim of child sexual abuse? So it is important to assure confidentiality to the child and talk with him or her with empathy. If the case has been reported, it is important to take consent of the child, and it is ideal to seek help from Childline so that professionals can assist in the process of guiding further procedures. It is important to have medical examination, that too with a medical professional of the same gender. It's important to report the offense, and it is also of importance to maintain the confidentiality of the child. What are the unsupportive behaviors? So unsupportive behaviors are blaming the child, ignoring the child when the child complains about the person or the incident, reacting in extreme while disclosing the abuse, sending the child back to the perpetrator and blaming the child, talking about the abuse to others in front of the child, and disclosing the identity to media or other people, or the unfriendly and unsupportive behaviors towards the child victim. So usually all the legal procedures and other procedures are streamlined, or at least described in a way that these untoward instances do not continue, and it does not end up being a traumatic experience for the child further after reporting. So the child helpline 1098 is always at your service. Thank you. If you have any further doubts, you can write to me in this email ID. I'll be happy to assist you. Thank you.